I'll just add a story about Florence Hollis. She said that, and this has to do with Florence's interest in the outdoors, that Florence Hollis was scheduled for an alumni dinner and speaking engagement in Los Angeles. And Dottie wanted to have everything just right. So she had every table set, she had everything just so. The guests were all there. They had had a drink, as was the custom at that time. And they were sitting and waiting still for Florence Hollis. This was pre-Perrier days. And they were sitting and waiting for Florence Hollis. They sat and they waited. She was up in the hills climbing and hiking. Didn't arrive and didn't arrive. And so by then, Dottie was pacing and pacing. Finally, in came Florence Hollis, as cool as a cucumber in all of her hiking boots, shorts, and immediately sat down, began the discussion, and everyone was absolutely enthralled by her presentation.
And just talk a little bit about Flo Hollis, who was so very, very special to me because I got to know her through Rosemary Reynolds. My favorite story was at the point when I knew Flo and Rosemary very well, and Flo was retiring from Columbia. And she had always carried a few cases at CSS because she believed that you couldn't be writing about practice unless you were still in there. And so Rosemary called me in and said, Flo wants you to do her a favor. And I said, what's that? And she said, well, you know that case, Mrs. Z, that she has been carrying for years on and off? I said, yes. Well, she'd like you to pick up on it. So it was probably Zimmer, Z. And that first evening I saw this client, it was much more difficult than the very first interview that I had on placement. And when I wrote it up as process recording and sent it with Rosemary to bring home to Flo. And I got it back with a little note. Don't worry, honey, you'll do fine.